Hi everyone, Chris Crosby here. As promised, we're going to do crisis response in the age of AI webinar. So I'll get started. Looks like technical difficulties. Just delayed. Okay. First, let's talk for a minute just about Xaqt's role currently in crisis response. The first thing we are doing is, so Xaqt started as a smart cities company. Now we're in cognitive interactions and engagement. So we do conversational IVR technology, not just for public sector, but we're currently supporting relief efforts in government organizations, most specifically around coronavirus call centers and quarantine outreach. So inbound interactions and questions from citizens, as well as outbound generated actions to folks that are impacted by the current situation. Additionally, key to that is helping people find useful information. The World Health Organization is calling this an infodemic, and we're seeing increased call volume to not just public sector agencies and entities, but actually across travel industries and a number of companies that are being impacted by this. So we want to protect people from misinformation, as well as enable contact center productivity and automation for companies that could be facing the prospect of shuttering a contact center. So first, let's step back and look at the world today and the current situation with crisis response. So the situation, as you all know, changes daily, sometimes hourly, right? And there's global uncertainty around the risks and how best to prepare for the situation. Cities and companies that we're speaking with, want to be on high alert, but not over panic. And citizens, employees lack timely and accurate information. Particularly, we're speaking with folks that have, lack the ability to capture ground truth data from impacted communities and individuals. So if there are people in quarantine or self-quarantined, how do you create that interactive outreach in a way that can capture the information that you need to manage the response accordingly? So there's a couple of sort of three key tenets to think about during any crisis response. And this is just, by the way, not just crisis response. This is just good sort of customer engagement and customer experience in general. But the first is to be proactive, right? Create proactive communication pathways and outreach to the impacted individuals. Now, this could be citizens or it could be just employees inside your organization that have questions. Could be your customers, right? I think every day we're getting emails now from companies talking about how they're responding and the policies that are being adjusted. In some cases, that's not enough. You have to be responsive. You have to be able to ensure that the critical information, whether it's how to get tested or how to get the right information about a new policy or procedure that's been impacted, how are you going to be responsive and provide the right information to the people when they need it and how they need it? And lastly, it's be relevant. Target the communications based on individuals' needs and their unique situation. Not everybody needs a blanket SMS text that says school's closed today. So the problem, I think in the current gap in getting to being achieving those three objectives is that critical communications are too important to hand over to bad technology. And unfortunately, that's the state of most of the world today, with fragmented solutions that lead to inefficiencies, inconsistencies, and data loss. And lastly, the current and legacy voice automation platforms, think IVRs, speech IVRs or outbound, basically suck, right? They're old, expensive, create underperforming experiences for your callers and customers. So where does AI then enter the picture, and how can we leverage new technology with old technology and create a more informed response? And that's where Xaqt is coming into play now to support our customers and partners really with omni-channel communication and automation, when speed and the accuracy of information is critical, as it is today. So with our cognitive engagement and response platform, you can reach your citizens, students, and employees across multiple digital touchpoints. With our inbound IVR as a service, we'll talk about each of these in more detail. The ability to create these automated outbound outreaches, as well as open up conversational SMS and chat. So again, it's about getting information to the folks in a way that makes sense, and then leveraging digital agents and AI bots to automate the most common conversations so that you're freeing up your internal resources, whether it's a call center or helpline, to address the most complex and sensitive interactions in nature. So applying this then back to those three key tenets around proactive, being proactive, responsive, and relevant, how can you scale a response? Today, some of these outreaches may be very minimal. You may have a couple hundred people in quarantine or a couple hundred people that are impacted by a policy change inside a city or an event cancellation. In the event that this needs to scale, that's again where these technologies and tools can come into play, so that now instead of just sending out blast SMS, you can be proactive, target the individuals that need an outreach regardless of their situation, customize those reminders and remote check-ins if necessary. And on the flip side of that is being responsive 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As new information becomes available, people need access to that or they have questions, creating those inbound pathways and opt-in communications that are relevant to them. And key to relevance here is having a centrally orchestrated content and information that is fact-based, sourced, and ready to go, and can be contextually and personalized to the folks that need it. Looking at this from more of a technology and use case approach, what we've developed is we've put together Xaqt's cognitive crisis response suite. So on the left here, we have our digital agents. This is what we've done for contact centers from 311 to travel agencies and transportation companies, where we have our conversational AI and automation platform that can handle inbound and outbound IVR calls. Whole lot of benefits to that, which we'll talk about. Fully SMS enabled, chat enabled, and can be embedded in collaboration tools like WebEx Teams, Microsoft Teams, Slack. So again, we're distributing, essentially orchestrating content, which you'll see in the middle here, this notion of knowledge management, where Xaqt is built and maintains on a real-time basis our own COVID-19 knowledge base, which is sourced directly from the CDC, the World Health Organization. Dive into that more here in a minute, but there's also other information that folks need access to. Could be custom knowledge bases from your internal company or community, that drive people to, know where to get screened, as an example. As well as there are times when you'll need to capture critical information and maintain that and persist that. Maybe your school is closed or a certain part of your city is now quarantined or in isolation. That information has to flow in and then it has to flow out, as well as any new policies and procedures that may get enacted. I mean, if you've recently, told employees non-essential travel is canceled, I'm sure you get a lot of questions about what is considered non-essential travel. Those types of questions need to be automated in order to scale, which is what you see here. Finally, on the right-hand side are the use cases, right? So there's mass outreach and communication, as well as automation on the inbound and outbound side, creating employee hotlines and chat bots, coupled with the inbound call center frequently asked questions. Unique thing about this is that you need to be able to persist and to leverage unified communications across digital channels, and that's where our unified interaction data comes into play, so that what conversations have been had and what people are saying. Right? Are they calling with certain symptoms, with certain questions? Leveraging insights and analytics into that by incorporating in situational intelligence, what's been done, our quarantines in place, our schools canceled, and running the insights and machine learning on top of that to drive the insights that you need to respond in a real-time and informed manner. So just a bit about Xaqt's digital contact center agents. This is core to what we do. Data analytics and conversational bots, intelligent cognitive contact center is what we do. Voice automation, our conversational AI is incredible. So we can automate. We're able to automate a number of calls across coronavirus, as well as enabling that through SMS, chat, can be embedded inside of intranets, extranets. Important to scaling right now is that this gets delivered at a cost that's about 85% less than live agent calls. We scale on demand, everything's in the cloud, and can address a wide range of use cases and communications. And in the event you need to shut down a call center, the bot doesn't need to go into quarantine. So one sort of pillar of our response is that, again, this notion of getting the right information out. So we have a team of people focused on building out the knowledge base around trusted and real-time information that's sourced directly from trusted resources, CDC, World Health Organization, Johns Hopkins, peer-reviewed, medically reviewed, addresses 80% of the questions that come in, with the ability to localize those. So if there are certain questions that come in around where do I get screened in my area, or where the local healthcare providers, that information can be put in, deployed in 48 hours, and pay for usage. So again, as you look at what are the needs of your constituents, internal or external right now, think about what can we automate from a communication standpoint so that your core resources then are able to be leveraged and focused on more critical tasks. Combine all this then, with real-time insights, with the ability to put AI on top of this. Now all of a sudden you're establishing not just a two-way communication with folks, but actually an intelligent conversation that's based on what are the pressing needs, what are the pressing questions, because we have the ability to leverage text analytics to combine that with other information and then drive valuable insights back in your organization, along with advanced geospatial capabilities as things emerge. So how does this work from a feature standpoint? Number one, we can bolt into any current contact center. I don't care if you're running a Cisco IPCC Express from 2005 or you're in the cloud with Amazon Connect or something in the middle. We can bolt in and work with you where you're at and get you to where you need to be quickly. Purpose built, and we keep the information fresh, as well as, again, bringing in the correct and relevant information for your unique situation. We include everything in 1 per minute rate. Performance and monitoring, QA, tuning improvements, all the call statistics and dashboards you need, all the knowledge base. Additionally, we can bring in the speech analytics. We can bring in customization around your local data sources as well. So step back then, less solution and more, let's talk for a minute about some of the use cases that this technology is getting deployed and how we're helping various folks. One use case is internal and employee communications. As your policies and procedures from paid time off around sick leave are changing and being evolved, or on travel policies or work from home, customers, HR departments, and operations teams are being inundated with questions that take them away from their day jobs and more important tasks. That's where our bots come in to play, because all of that information can be codified. We can stand up an employee hotline if you need to, or just put these communications in through chat or SMS or their existing collaboration tools. Educational institutions are, I think, being disproportionately impacted right now. I think we saw earlier today Harvard University is putting everybody at home. They're not the only university. There is a need inside this loop to communicate the closings and emergency response procedures, as well as help students navigate situations where they think maybe they were exposed, particularly if it's an international community or there's a community with a lot of travel. And then the ability to create these automated outreaches that can monitor situations without having to just manually dial and talk to people, which really kind of plays back into, you know, constituent outreach, where you may have a population of people that you need to interact with. They could be high risk folks, that have unique needs, or they could be people under quarantine, or any number of situations where manually calling people and tracking that isn't going to scale. Um, our outbound conversational platform can address that for you. We can collect symptoms, location information. We can create those automated notifications and check-ins with people to remind them. Maybe there's certain things they need to be doing right now, precautions they need to be taking. All of that can be automated in those conversations and get brought back into the speech engine to monitor in real time what's going on. So we do have, you can go to our website at the end here and listen to a couple of demo calls. Or this. Okay. Here is, that call goes on for about another minute, but again, we can play that on the website. Employee resource chatbot or SMS bot. What's the work from home policy? What's the paid time off policy? What are the unique things in your situation? I mentioned consolidated and built-in performance analytics and business intelligence. Again, coming back to the core of what Xaqt does, it's critical that you understand the impact and outreach and effects of your communications. And then lastly, bringing all this together with your CDC data, World Health Organization data to really, or locally sourced case data to really bring together the full picture for you. So please reach out, Chris@Xaqt.com. There's my direct number if you are interested and want to chat. Thank you.